Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like your screen is sharing right now. I see your
someone else's screen, actually. I know whose screen. So, okay, give me a minute. You can resume. I can make you the host, and then you can just start screen sharing. Hi,
Sure.
Mike.
I think I can still do it. Let's see if I go yes. It looks like I can take it from you, so I'm gonna try.
You are the host. So yeah, cool. It's working.
Do you see this?
Yeah. All good.
Okay.
All good.
Perfect.
Right. Cool. I think we are on 58, so people are coming in already.
Awesome. Okay.
Starts. Cool.
Perfect. Let's see.
Hi, Nick. Hello, everyone.
Take it from you.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Hi, everyone.
Hello. How many people are on here?
So Mike is our organizer from China.
Hello, Sareem.
Hello, nice to meet you virtually.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Yeah.
On mute so that I'm Nick. Hello, everyone.
Sounds good.
Okay, I think there's a problem on FB. Let me fix it. They are not able to see. Okay, I think FB does not take my screen. It just takes the audio.
Okay, so I noticed that there's about a 15 to 20-second delay on YouTube.
Okay, yeah, there is a delay on everything. I mean, even on FB there is a delay.
Yeah, that's normal. That's just standard latency global-wise.
Okay, I guess we are going live. So we're all set. Let me just confirm FB is working. Can you guys on FB? Cool. So all good. We are all set, and we have our participants also in. So I think we should just start, right? Somebody, you are ready?
Ready.
All good. Okay. So thank you for coming in, Samrin. And let me just start by introducing IoT and the Innovator Meetups as such, because this is our first meetup. And so we're very happy to have you as our first guest. And I hope this goes along because we're going to do it monthly. So the Innovator Meetups are created by IoT to bring together entrepreneurs, techies, academia. I mean, we also want to include academia and all the enthusiasts, marketing people, everyone, because we think this is a large opportunity. We already know AI IoT is like a decade-long opportunity. There is going to be so much for all of us. So the idea is that why keep it to us? Let's share as a community, and that's why we started IoT, and these innovator meetups will try to bring in companies like you who have created cool innovations in AI IoT, because it's very early. The field is still coming in, and you guys already have a product, so it's very early. And we really appreciate this kind of companies, and we want to bring them. So this is a cross-country meetup, as in people are there from China. I think eventually we're going to get people from Europe, Australia. Right now there are people from China, Singapore, India. So that's the uniqueness of this platform. And obviously, we are all indebted to ARM, because ARM sponsored this meetup. And if for those who don't know ARM, you all have it. I'm not speaking of this ARM. You also have an ARM architecture on your phone. All your phone CPUs, if you did not know, is made by ARM. The architecture that they use to make the CPU is by ARM. And ARM sponsors this meetup because AI on edge is is something that they are very interested in. So, and personally, let me introduce myself. I'm Nick. I also have a startup in AI on edge and AI IoT. So we are Shunyos. We're still pre-launch, but I'll keep that for some other day. Today is Samreen's day, and today is all about Matrix Labs. So Samreen, I'll just hand over to you, and please introduce yourself and your company. Okay, Samreen, you're on mute.
Oh, here we are. Sorry about that. Thank you, Nick. Thank for the introduction and for organizing this. Sponsored by, I'm sure, but IoT. This is a great initiative to bring an international audience together to talk about AIoT, which is super exciting. So a little bit about myself. I'm the product and community manager at this company called Matrix Labs that I'll tell you a little bit more about. I'm actually right now in Bangladesh, so I'm also, coming from, the South Asia zone where I think most people are from right now. So that's exciting. COVID-19, so everybody has to work from home. So forgive the background, it's my childhood room. But I basically studied mechanical engineering in undergrad, and this is my first job. Super excited about, working at this company. I've been here 2 years now. I did mechanical engineering, computer science, and was always interested in IoT, AI, robotics, super fun technology stuff. So that's a little bit about myself. Matrix Labs as a company, we basically try to create developer tools that make technologies that are difficult to access, just easy to code and build off of. So we basically make APIs and hardware that you can easily code to create your own solution or application. So I'll give you some examples as we walk through here so you actually know what I'm talking about. So we have 2 development boards that we've built so far, the Matrix Voice and Matrix Creator. I'll show you here in real time as well. This is the Matrix Creator and this is the Matrix Voice. So these boards have a bunch of components on them, and I'll go, because I know this is kind of a techie crowd, I'll go over the components a little bit. So they're hardware development boards for the Raspberry Pi. So for those of you who don't know what a Raspberry Pi is, which I'm pretty sure most people do, but I'll go over it really quickly anyway, it's basically a credit card sized computer. And you can put an SD card in and boot it from there, super cool. And there's different versions with different memory and processors, stronger processors. The higher up you go, the Raspberry Pi 4 has a really, really cool processor and lots of RAM. It can have lots of RAM. But so basically our development board sits on the Raspberry Pi, just it goes right on top of the GPIO pins. And then it basically adds a bunch of functionality to it. So the Matrix Creator, this is huge, right? It has a 35 LEDs, it has a 8 microphone array. So, the idea is, okay, if you want to do Alexa or Google Assistant or any sort of voice assistant or anything with omnidirectional sound, you can use the Matrix Creator because it's a microphone array, right? It has temperature, humidity, pressure, IMU. I can keep going, but probably you'd get bored. So it basically has a lot of sensors. a lot of communication. So it's Zigbee, Z-Wave. So those are the protocols you use to talk to Philips Hue light bulbs, smart switches, like all that stuff. Super cool. Also has NFC. So, you know, like most car keys and things like that have NFC. So you can register that as well. Also, feel free to stop me if I'm going too fast or ask any questions in the middle. You know, whatever. Yeah, I talk a lot, so.
You can go a little slow because there are so many things that is there in this. Like, you know, people might just miss some of the features. So
True.
I think it's very interesting that there are so many things on one little board.
Yeah. So thank you for slowing me down because I always tend to forget that. But the board, it basically like the idea for this one with all of the different sensors, like there's 15 sensors. It has Zigbee, Z-Wave, NFC. It has an ARM Cortex M3 microcontroller. So that's what's handling the sensor data. And that's what's making sure it's all coming in, you know, being pulled at a good rate. So the microcontroller is dealing with that. The Raspberry Pi, while it is a very strong computer, isn't as good at like quick sensor data acquisition because it doesn't have like quite like a microcontroller quite like the ARM Cortex M3. And then it also has an FPGA. So for those of you who don't know what an FPGA is, it's a field programmable gate array, and it blew my mind when I found out about it. But it basically is a chip that has like tiny transistors, and when you're programming it, you're connecting those transistors and making a little circuit basically inside that chip. And that's what's super cool about it is that it's hardware that's configurable. Like you can change the architecture of the hardware, and you can do that for the Matrix Creator too, because the FPGA code is open source. So all of our software is open source, including the FPGA code, the microcontroller code, all of the code that runs on the Raspberry Pi to access all the sensors, to access the microphone data, or to talk to Zigbee and Z-Wave chips. All of that is open source. And so you can mess with the code itself. Yes, you can get the Matrix board from India. Somebody asked in the chat. Yeah, so our distributors are Premier Farnell, and they distribute worldwide. So and then also like if you buy directly from us, we also distribute, like we also ship to India. We actually had a contest on Hackster where like I think like 2 of 4 winners were from India, and we shipped to them hardware, we shipped to them their prizes. You know, globalization. So, you know, you can get the board wherever. So that's
and that's what IoT is for. I mean, like we want it to be global, right? I mean, all of us want it to be global. It's not narrowed down. It's not like something used to happen in the US and then every other country gets it 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line. Why? There are engineers all like a bird. Yeah.
Exactly. So now like the hardware can be worldwide. So obviously the knowledge is also worldwide because of the internet and things like this you know session we're having, where you're learning about all of these things and you're having access to all of these cool tech. And now you'll figure out, okay, how do I use this to make a cool solution that solves a problem in India, or you know, which is super cool. Another question, how much does it cost? Apart from hardware sensors, can you mention a few key features of Matrix board? Yeah, so how much does it cost? The Matrix Creator costs $99 US dollars. The Matrix Voice, which I will talk about in a bit, is a smaller version which costs $55. And then with a microcontroller, so that it can run without a Raspberry Pi, costs $65. This is a lot of information. So I'm gonna, you know, hopefully I'll be able to send you some links maybe so that you can look at it in your own time. Okay, is Atmel MCU firmware also open source? Yes, it is. The Atmel MCU firmware is open source. So all of the code, all of the software, like the hardware architecture isn't open source, but all the software, the microcontroller code, the FPGA, Verilog, and the Raspberry Pi code to like, you know, communicate with those components, all open source. So you can see it, learn from it, change it. That's all great. Okay, so apart from hardware sensors, can you mention a few key features? For me, the biggest things about these boards is that it's open source, like you had asked. Can you talk about APIs? Okay, wow, I love these questions. Yes, I can talk about APIs. So actually, let me show you, because you're on yeah, go ahead.
Because we also have all kinds of audience, so you can like go and explain what it does, and then go deeper into the tech,
Right, exactly. So the API wise, so this is our documentation. So our documentation, it has like pretty much any question. Wow, what is this thing?
Yeah.
Pretty much any question you have can be answered. Somebody drew on here, I feel like. But anyway.
Doesn't matter, yeah.
But yeah, so any questions you have, hardware, like software, you can find on the documentation. So let's look at like today I'm going to go over like a Python example with Google Assistant. So I'll show you the Python API, for example, right? So Matrix Lite, so we have a few different software layers. So the lowest software layer is Matrix HAL, which is the Matrix Hardware Abstraction layer. That's the layer that directly talks to the FPGA. So it's like, you install it on the Raspberry Pi and it directly talks to the FPGA, and the FPGA is what's connecting all of these components, even the microcontroller. And so that's C++. So if you're comfortable with C++, you probably want to go straight to the hardware abstraction layer. And when you click on getting started, it'll tell you the different ways you can install it. And the API is like pretty simple. So like these are, just literally copy paste commands to install. Let me get rid of my dark mode because that might make it a little bit easier to see. So yeah, these are all commands that you just copy paste, and that way you've installed it. And then you can see all of the examples that you need. So, okay, like you make the directory, this is an example code. And it like there's comments for every single section. So you'll know exactly what each line is doing. So the C++, obviously, like it's a little bit, the hardware abstraction there. So it's a little bit like wordy in a sense, as far as code can go. If you want, say, one line to set LEDs or one line to read sensors, then you'd go a step higher, abstract it to Python, JavaScript, or Go. So I'll show you the Python example. So it builds off of, basically it calls the C++ code, but it's just like very easy syntax. So for example, the ever loop, which is what we call this like LED array, we call it the ever loop because it's fun. So all you have to do is you import the library once you install it, and installing it is really easy. There's also steps for it here. And then for example, if you want to make the LEDs blue, you just do led.set blue. That's all. And then if you wanted to do it in hex, you could do the hex instead. If you wanted to do it in this format, where you're putting like, between a number between 0 to 255 for blue, you can do that as well. There are multiple ways you can set the LEDs blue, but it's just one line, super easy. So APIs wise, you can go as deep as you want, depending on how like technologically, like how much depth you want in terms of like, and how much control you want, right? The deeper you go, the more control you have over like smaller aspects of your code. But the higher you go, the easier the syntax becomes. So if you're new to programming, maybe you'd want to start with Python or JavaScript. Hopefully that answers your question. And I don't know if I'm taking too much time talking about this, but I guess I'll go back to the slides.
I think you can show some more code. Before code, I think largely let me just try this in a different way. What would happen is we have a wide audience. So let me ask you a few questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like for the very novice person, what possibilities does this open? Like what can he make with this? Give me some examples of cool stuff that makes this. Yeah, use cases.
Okay, let me show you all a cool use case that's actually being used by a company that made a product out of it. So this is a company called DeepScribe. And they're a startup, but they've already deployed their device in hundreds of hospitals, and they're an auto transcription service. So they use our board, the microphone array, and the Raspberry Pi, and they're basically using it to transcribe doctor-patient conversations and smart tag the words to make notes for the doctor. So they don't have to write everything afterwards. And like, so that simple like use case in healthcare can save a lot of time for doctors, and that's what DeepScribe is trying to do. They're trying to save time for doctors, and also make it easier for them to get all the patient information after a conversation with them, and that they also get to focus on the patient more. They can focus on talking to the patient instead of writing things down, because it's happening automatically, transcribing and smart tagging all the medical terms. So this is like a cool use case that I haven't thought of before until this company just made a product with our board. And they're using the microphones on our board with it. And they packaged it up. It's their own product. We might as well not have known that that's our board in there. So that's a cool use case. But other use cases, like what I would use it for. Sometimes I use it for like a personal voice assistant that I have more control over. So for example, if I have Google Assistant running on my Matrix device, and I'm like, this is better than a Google Home Mini, because if I want to attach a little robot arm to it and go like, okay, Google, turn my robot on, it can actually control the robot arm. Like I have more control over like what hardware or sort of what I'm commanding, right? When I'm using like a developer tool.
Let me just take that again for our audience. So this is clear. So what the interesting possibility that Samreen is talking about here is, you have seen Alexa, you have seen Google. They can respond to your voice commands only back in voice. They cannot take an action. What Samreen is saying, because this has so many interfaces, both analog and digital, you can actually connect some device. It can be a door or something, and that there is an action that you can take on a hardware, right? And it can do anything in hardware. That's the cool part of it. It's not just a voice response, but it's also a physical response that you can create with it.
Exactly. And that physical response is in your hands, right? So if
Right.
I want to attach a motor to this and attach that motor to, like you said, like my door or my garage door, I can have a voice controlled door. you know, I can have, like, people have made like full home automation systems, because the Matrix Creator can talk to smart lights and smart switches. Like you can create a voice controlled like light switch system in your house, but instead of installing Google Assistant or Alexa, you can use an offline voice assistant, complete privacy. Like it's all running on the device, no data being sent to the internet. A lot of people find that very important, like preserving your privacy, making sure your voice data isn't being sent to Google or Amazon, and who knows? I mean, we don't know what they're doing with the data. So, there's always applications there.
And what would be the FPGA configuration be like? What kind of processor do you have to program into it to it be able to run the entire stack offline?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Actually, the stack for, like, say, the voice assistant or home automation is actually running on the Raspberry Pi. The FPGA on these boards, yeah, exactly. So the FPGA on these boards, like, the Matrix Creator, because it has so many components, the FPGA is kind of like the glue. It's basically like, how you're connecting everything to the microcontroller, to the sensor, to the Raspberry Pi. All of that communication is happening in the FPGA for the Matrix Creator. For the Matrix Voice, however, because there are fewer components, it basically is a smaller version of the Matrix Creator. It still has an FPGA, it has an 8 microphone array, less LEDs, but doesn't have all of those sensors and communications. So it's more voice specific, right? So for this FPGA, you can, like, there's a lot of space on there. You could do like complex digital signal processing. Like right now we have some very simple noise suppression algorithms and for digital signal processing running on the FPGA. But you could, like, we have a Hackster guide where you can put a RISC-V, which, I mean, I shouldn't be saying because, competitors to ARM, you can put a RISC-V SoC, like a system on chip architecture on this FPGA, which is super cool because, and that's just one example. You could put different types of like software architectures on the FPGA. Somebody's asking, can we use Xilinx library for FPGA? So that's a great question, actually, because the FPGAs on this board are Spartan 6s. So Xilinx Spartan 6. So this one has the first tier Xilinx Spartan 6. This one has the second tier, which means this one has more processing blocks. It's a bigger FPGA, basically. So Xilinx library-wise, Xilinx, the way it's set up, it has two different sort of development environments. And one of them is called Vivado. And that one has like custom, like drag and drop, like IP blocks, like into like you can drag and drop an ARM Cortex M and put that into the FPGA. So that's really a really nice interface, right? Before you get too excited, huh?
I'll just make it simple for people who are not so familiar with FPGA because they have a wide variety of audience. So what is an FPGA? It's like FPGA is like a blank processor. It has nothing. You can make it into any processor that you want. You can make it into a microcontroller. You can make it into anything that you want. You just program. You just put the microprocessor or the microcontroller code onto the FPGA, and it becomes what you make it. Right? Currently, you think it is DSP. What have you programmed it to be? Like, is it acting as a DSP?
Yeah, so currently it's acting as the DSP for the mics and also connecting all of the so the good thing about not having all of the connections in the PCB, instead of having this is being routed to the Raspberry Pi GPIO, but it's happening through the FPGA, not the PCB. So you can change what each pin is doing in the Raspberry Pi
That's so
by
cool.
coding the FPGA.
I'm sure not many people can do the FPGA programming, but whoever can, I mean, it's amazing for them.
Yeah.
So we'll go in levels. Let me drive it for the levels. Like, okay, now the people who came in to know what kind of stuff they can make, they are probably amazed by your deep scribe example, and they can themselves put together all these combinations and think what to make, right? And I think you have something on Hackster where they can see more cool projects and come up with ideas.
Yeah, so this is our Hackster page. Actually, we have guides where step by step you can make lots of different things. In fact, when you asked me about applications, I should have just come here because there are so many different applications on this page. So this is our most recent project, voice control your lights with Raspi and a Matrix device. So literally my coworker, Alfred, he put this device in his wall. Like he ripped out his wall switch and then routed the live and ground wires to a relay that's being controlled by the Matrix voice. And he's voice controlling it using Raspi, which is an offline voice assistant. So that's a super cool example.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I also wanted to say, so there's a lot of voice assistant projects here, a lot of okay, how can you use the Matrix voice standalone using the microcontroller on there? This one's super cool. You can do direction of arrival. This is actually some PhD student's thesis that he made open source. And this actually does some really complex digital signal, it does acoustic echo, it does, spatial filtering. So literally it can tell you where the XYZ coordinate of where a sound is coming from, which is insane. And so that's what this project does. So there's a lot of different applications. Like this project itself has been used by people to make robots that turn their heads in the direction of whoever's talking to them. It's been used to, that's the most common application I've seen, but you can honestly use it for a lot of different things. One thing I wanted to say about the FPGA though, we have a guide on how you can get started with the FPGA. And there's a very simple example. It tells you how you can set up the Xilinx environment, how you can compile, how you can modify the code in a small way, and then compile it and reflash it. So anybody, even if you're new, you can honestly set up the FPGA, figure out how to program the FPGA because we have the directions for you.
Wow, so it's all very well documented and people can just follow and do their own stuff. Yeah. I think a lot of people would be also interested, we have this audience of, I've tried to cater to the audience who want to know what can be done. And then you have already gone very deep for the techie audience. Let's also come in for the entrepreneur audience. First of all, I would like to know the company's entrepreneurial journey because it's a little ahead of its times when it started. And so how was the response in the market when you took it? What difficulties did you face with your investors or probably, getting traction, the initial traction of it? And I see actually you guys are very popular. I mean, you have a lot of places that you've been to. So if you can go from that journey for an innovator who's making a product, how do you scale this to a level like this where everyone knows you and tries to take your product and so many demos on Hackster? There's an awesome work done on that front, right?
Yeah. Thank you for, thank you for leading the discussion because I'm definitely going into rabbit holes. But yeah, so for sure, the entrepreneurial journey, honestly, for this product. So the company's been around for 4 years. I've only been here for 2 years, right? So about the history of it, I've heard a lot. So I'll tell you what I've learned of how it started and how it grew. So initially, the engineers decided to make this product because they themselves wanted to have so the company has a parent that actually has nothing to do with this product. So the engineers of that company were like, oh, we really need a prototyping tool, something to like create things with that's like super easy to interface with. So they decided to build it themselves, right? And
Oh,
so yeah, so it was kind of a passion project. So they designed it, they built it, and then they were like, all right, like now the CEO is like, wow, you guys have made something super cool. Like we should see if other people are interested in this, right? If other people want the Matrix Creator and Matrix Voice. So what they did was we launched Indiegogo and Kickstarter campaigns. So I don't know if you all know what these are, but these are basically crowdfunding platforms. And you can put, say, you created something. It can be hardware, it can be a service, whatever you create, you can put it on that website and you can tell people like a story of what it does, what can you make with it, what can you do with it, what does it have, and people that are interested can back you in advance. So I see an Indiegogo page and it's about the Matrix Creator, and I'm like, wow, this is super cool. I'm gonna show my support for you by backing you in advance. I'm gonna give you $50 because I believe that you're going to be able to launch this and create something great. So we had on Indiegogo a certain sort of goal of reaching a certain amount of money and certain amount of backers, and we exceeded that goal by like a few, by quite a bit. And I think the reasons for exceeding it, we definitely, a lot of it is just spreading the word as much as you can, right? Like we all know that well, nowadays with the internet, like you can use social media to get to so many different types of people, right? You can use Reddit, you can use communities like this where you're like, oh, I have this cool idea, what do you all think, right? Super cool to be able to have communities like this to show ideas, share ideas, gauge excitement, right? And I think that's something that we were able to do is get to the right crowd so they can be excited about it. So it was through like social media, through making like YouTube videos showing exactly what it could do, trying to spread the word. We became ARM Innovators, which was really helpful because they have a huge network, which Nick can probably tell you more about it too. They have a huge network of just people that are interested in tech and that can see value in things like this. And I think that's what helped us grow and start to spread the word of what we could do. We
Xilinx
also
was
went to,
of that, or it was something that you guys had already chosen? Like did Xilinx come through 96 boards or something, or it was like already something?
yeah, I think the reason we ended up using Xilinx is most probably because our engineers learned that in school, which is kind of funny. Like that's just what they knew, and that's probably why they ended up using Xilinx. But I couldn't tell you like exactly all the design decisions behind everything. I've definitely asked about the FPGA, so I know that like, oh, like we knew Xilinx very well, so we used Xilinx. But I'm sure for like other things, they did some sort of like comparison analysis to see what would work better, what wouldn't, because you always got to do that. And then we also went to a lot of events, and I think that helped. Like we went to maker fairs, we went to anywhere where we knew engineers that like this kind of stuff would be there, and they could help spread the word. So that's super helpful.
So how long did it take, like from when they started working on it to get to a certain number of, like, say your first 50 demos on this on Hexter? How long was that journey?
Oh, I mean, that's hard to gauge. I mean, I think like I don't know how many demos we have, but like literally like they come as we do them. Like, so it's like, we're having fun, we're making something, then we're like, oh yeah, let's make it a Hexter guide. And so we do. We try to release like at least 2 Hexter guides a month, but sometimes it's really hard to keep up with that.
Yeah.
But the idea is to continuously generate examples, because the more examples there are out there, the more people will see them and have their own ideas to build off of them, right? So if we make like an example of, oh, look, you can make an Iron Man costume, right? Like we have right here. It's a little Iron Man voice-controlled arc reactor. Maybe this will lead to Matrix being used in, I don't know, other types of like theater. Maybe it'll be used in theater. Maybe, I don't even know, right? There are just so many different applications that we can't think of. So we just try to make it so that people have access to as many like different voice assistants, different I don't know, like have access to all they can so that they can then do the innovating off of our boards.
Okay. So, and how's the situation on investors? Like, are investors already there on board and you're looking for more? What is the scene on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, because we kind of originated from a parent company, the investors of the parent company also invested in our company. So, that came through sort of our CEO already knew those investors, so kind of pitching a new idea that's different from his other company to investors, like they had that trust with him. Right now, actually, we're raising a seed round for Matrix Labs because we're legally now our own entity. Like we spun off from our parent company and we became our own company this year. So we're raising a seed round and of $750,000 to come to take us into our next phase, which is making more and more tools for developers. And that has been an interesting journey because in COVID-19 times, it is a little difficult to raise money. Some tips and tricks, I guess, from what I've learned in the past few months. Cold emailing, it's difficult. I've been doing a lot of okay, let me tell this person how cool this is, send them an email. They don't even know me. Maybe they'll open it, maybe they won't, right? So that's super difficult. What we did is we have like a list of investors that we know invest in IoT, AI, developer tools, things like that. So we have a list. And we're going down the list, checking on LinkedIn, see if you have any common connections, see if you're able to get anybody to make introductions, maybe attend a talk that this investor is giving virtually, and then email them going like, oh, I saw your talk. This is like, I found it super interesting. I thought what you said here is really cool. Oh, also look, I have this cool tech. You want to check it out? That's kind of how we're going about it now, because virtually it's super difficult. You can't meet people. You can't have that handshake, and so it's all about how can you make yourself stand apart from everybody else that's emailing that investor.
And also, you said like you find a connecting dot, right? Something that they want to see or they're talking about, and then you say, oh yeah, you've been. So there's a connecting dot that you need to find. That's a very interesting way to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
There are great products that come across you, but if they're not in that zone at that point of time, they probably might miss a good product. So if they're posting something related that is in that zone, and that time it's likely to become a hit,
Exactly. No, exactly. Follow people you're trying to raise money from on Twitter. Follow them on LinkedIn. See what they're posting. See what they're interested in. See how what you're making lines up with their interests. Like, it's super difficult, but it's all about how can you really make that person excited by seeing just a glimpse. So because they're seeing so many different ideas every day, they just have to it just has to click. So it's definitely a tough process raising money, but you just gotta keep at it, because not getting a response or getting a no doesn't mean that your idea is not good. It usually just means that it's either not a fit for them, or they are so overwhelmed that they weren't able to see the value. You should still stick to what you think. Obviously, continuously getting feedback is also good, and you can always iterate on your pitch, because that's always the important thing. How can I make my pitch tailored to this person? And it doesn't always work out, but that's okay. You just got to keep going.
Yeah, that's a lot of work, and that's something that most of the entrepreneurs would be interested in, because like you said, your project itself started out of someone's passion to build something cool, and then the passion has to become a reality. It has to become a startup. It has to go out in the world and sustain itself as a business, which is where most of the people find it hard. Probably a lot of people, like especially the innovators, find it very easy. Personally also, we find it very easy to create stuff and go on creating, and then when it comes to the next leg of the journey of making it into a company and rolling into the market, getting the investors, that's hard. So your insights are very helpful. I'm very sure a lot of audience would love it. Take those tips and try for whatever they're trying to innovate. So my next question for you is from our next audience. I mean, the group that we have, academia. So we have a lot of interest from universities that we as a community very closely work with a lot of universities. and we try to upskill a lot of both students, colleges, researchers, all of these people. So is there anything on your platform that they can work with you? Is there something that you have for academia?
Yeah, so we basically love researchers and academia using our products because we've found like students, researchers, people like professors, they tend to come up with very innovative projects and applications in general, right? So what basically with academia, most of the time what ends up happening is like if they reach out to us and want to like want us to help them with certain software things, we can definitely do that. We definitely like to collaborate. But if it's like a lot of people sometimes reach out going like, oh, can we change this component on the hardware, can we, things like that, that's a little bit more difficult because that requires, because all of these boards are certified worldwide, so you can create a product with this and it would be really easy to certify it because you have to have like regulations and things like that all work out, and since these boards are already certified, it's easier to make a product with them. So it's difficult for us to change hardware.
I think that point is very important before people miss it, that this is a certified product, which is very rare for the hacker community. Most of the hacker community boards are put together for functionality, but it's not a certified product that you can actually launch in the market.
Yeah.
So this is very interesting point, that if someone builds a product using this, it's already certified. It's certified for Europe, US.
Yeah, it's certified Europe, US, Canada. I'm pretty sure, well, I don't really know what the certifications in Asia are.
Follow US and Europe. If it's certified there, I think it's good for Asia too.
Yeah, I would hope so. So yeah, it's it's certified in those places.
China,
you can always be certified worldwide, but I never asked, like, are we certified in Asia or does it just count?
So I think Mike can know that are there different certifications for China?
Yeah,
Mike,
sure. For most of Asia, if it's manufactured in China, they might go with a CE plus. If most people these days, what they're doing is they're manufacturing and certifying with the standard of a CE, and then doing something like certifying for Europe, maybe not necessarily the US immediately. And if in that particular vein, it's going to pass for most of Southeast Asia and Asia.
Yeah,
Some countries, individual countries, may have some requirements for testing. And normally in manufacturing, what happens is, the customer, the product developer, they will have to foot that and to organize that. Most Chinese manufacturers, they may have a third party that will assist, but the manufacturer will put their hands up and stand back.
Yeah, so Mike has been in manufacturing in China for a long period of time. I was also in Shenzhen, but Mike is probably much bigger expert because he's there hands-on in manufacturing. So that's why our organizers are all part of this community. They are all like really into this game.
Yeah, that's good to know.
I've been in China for 23 years now.
Oh wow.
He's more Chinese. He looks Australian, but he's more Chinese. Okay. So I think you've catered for the entrepreneurs, the academia, and innovators. You've gone very deep into the innovators, explained all the tech, and for the academia, they can surely work with you. And now we can just take some questions from the audience. If there are any questions, I think there's also our friend Ritesh who's managing different Instagram and other channels, YouTube. So if there are other questions, Ritesh, you can just ask me on WhatsApp. I'll take those questions. I'll start with the ones on Zoom. So yeah, you already have a compliment. It's an amazing board. Basically, FPGA boards are usually much bigger and bulkier, but this is very cool, small, certified. A lot of positives for you. Can I use Judson Nano instead of Pi? Is that possible?
Yeah, so not officially possible, but we have had people try to do that. But there's a lot of sort of lower level software development work you would have to do. So I wouldn't recommend it. But if you really are like deep into tech, we could definitely like provide you the resources to help you build support for it, but we don't officially have support for it.
Okay. And yeah, I mean, the classic Indian question, can we have a discount?
We'll see about that. Definitely, definitely a good question.
Thank you for the question. And can you...
Actually, is there anyone stocking the product in India or in Asia, or is it up to individuals? Like as a developer, as a product developer, then we can see the Max Creator, the Max Voice. We have an idea for a finished product or an application that we do. But with regard to those hardware developers, people like us that are actually cranking out our ideas, taking it from 0 to 1 and prototyping, all of that kind of thing. How do we access the board? Is there some stockists or those kind of options? You mentioned the price, but where is it being delivered from?
Yeah, so if you purchase directly from us on our website, it's being delivered from the US. But you can also purchase from Premier Farnell and Newark, which have stock in the UK. I think they have stock in the UK, Liege. So those can go anywhere in Asia. So they like pretty quick as well.
Cool.
Thank you.
I'll take more questions. Let me see, everyone. Can it scan and recognize a QR code? I think you'll need a camera for that. Or
yeah, you would need a camera. You would basically attach a Raspberry Pi camera to the Raspberry Pi, and you could do that. Yeah.
I really want to tinker this board. I'm from developer background. Can I have, okay, there's like, he really wants some discounts. It's not letting you go.
Okay, we'll definitely check it out. I'll talk to my CEO and see if I can get a discount specifically for the IoT crowd.
Oh, wow, that would be so wonderful if you can give us a code, yeah? What is the website to get info?
Great question. Should have addressed this early on, but you can go to matrix.one. Pretty simple, and you can check out all of our information there. You can go to like the creator page, the voice page. There's like an enterprise section, educators, developers, resources, and also the store page. But if you buy from this store page, it would come from the US. But you can get links to, for example, for the Matrix Creator, the only people that sell it are Premier Farnell. So you can get the links that you want from there as well.
Okay. So yeah, there's another interesting question. This is like trend of the times in India. Can you license it to manufacture in India?
That's a great question and one that I do not have expertise in, but I will keep a note of it and see if I can find out. Sorry.
So just to clarify, the hardware is not open source, right?
No, so the hardware is not open source, and currently they're manufactured in China.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think we have covered most of the questions, and truly deserves where do you get your boards manufactured? I think you already answered that. It's in China. Can it transcribe in Indian languages? This is another question.
Oh, that's a great question. So it depends on the voice assistant that you're using. For example, like I have Google Assistant installed on my device right now. If Google Assistant supports in Hindi, or I mean, I don't know, the language that you're speaking, then then it should work. But if not, then no. But there's one that I wanted to share with you all, and it's called Raspy. Check it out if you can. It's an offline open source voice assistant, and that supports a bunch of languages. Like supported languages, it has many. In fact, it does have Hindi. So yeah, you should check it out.
Yeah, so we can just build that. Wow, that's nice. No, I think we're at 6:45 already, so it's time to start the closure of this event.
I didn't even get to show the demo.
Oh, you can. Take your 5 minutes. Totally.
Should I do it?
Yeah, do it.
Okay. So this is just a really quick, really simple demo of Google Assistant running on our device. And I'm going to stop sharing and quickly share my terminal just so you can see what it's looking like. So this is my terminal. Where's my terminal? Okay, here it is. So basically, Google Assistant, the developer SDK right now, it doesn't have wake word. So if you wanted to use, like, when you say, hey, Google, if you wanted to do that, you would have to install like a third-party wake word. It could be Snowboy, it could be anything. So right now it's push to talk. So I have to press the enter button. So I'm going to move my, so you can see. So I have a Matrix voice right here with the Raspberry Pi connected to a speaker, and that it's running the code that you're seeing on the terminal right now. So I'm going to press enter. What's the weather?
Currently in Dhaka, it's 87 degrees and cloudy. Tonight, it's predicted to be 84 degrees and cloudy. Due to the current humidity, it feels like it's 100.
So the only customization I did here is I have the LEDs responding. Like when it's recording, it has a different color, things like that. But you could have responses be like, motors moving by like attaching different components or, lots of cool stuff. So just wanted to show you guys quickly what the Google Assistant on the Matrix device, what running that might look like. So yeah, that's it. You can go ahead now. Also, you can see a description here.
Yeah. Yeah, so did it say that what's the way and then it figured it out? What's the weather?
Yeah, so Google Assistant is interesting. Like even if it doesn't hear you the first time, it's smart enough to know how to correct itself. And so that's what's interesting about Google Assistant. The way it works, I'm not really sure. But I don't think all assistants work the same way.
Yeah, because that's very interesting, because what's the way could also have been a question, but probably it figured out there's no GPS on this, so it's not asking for the way. Is there a GPS on this one?
No. So it's just doing some smart thing.
It realizes that it cannot be asking for the way because you're not having anything that travels along with it. So
it must be the weather.
Yes, it must be the weather. It's pretty intelligent, and this is for our general people who are who are new to AI. AI is like human brain. It's not something that's pre-programmed. A lot of people think it's a lot of things are like these are commands that are pre-programmed. They're not pre-programmed. It's like human. When someone asks you a question, as a human, you understand probably he doesn't mean this. He's trying to ask this, right? I mean, that's because you also take the context around you and then infer it. That's what AI does. And we have someone already putting it all into a small product and delivering it to you so you can make more stuff with it, right? So
yeah,
I think on the community side, I really have to thank you for being our first first guest here. So let's do that. I mean, all together, can someone take a screenshot? Yeah. Cool. I think we must have got some screenshots. Thank you so much.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me as your first guest. Very honored.
Yeah. We're going to do some post-event marketing also, so please be ready for answering some more questions even after the event. We'll get you some more questions. Anything that you want to tell the audience before you leave, that what should they contact you for? Do you want to get a lot of LinkedIn requests? What do you want? Like
Yeah, I mean, no, for sure. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is Samreen. Samreen, I'm trying to remember if I have my middle initial in my LinkedIn or not. Samreen-F for, for fog-Islam. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Matrix-wise, you can post on our community.matrix.one, and usually we're always looking at it. So if you have any questions, you can post on our community. Check out our Hackster page for projects. Can I send you some links and stuff, Nick, that you can send out to the community?
I mean, I think you can even drop it on the group. We will pass it. Even with the links we'll post. We surely want, the whole idea of this meetup is to promote people.
Yeah, so for sure, I'll just put some stuff in the chat as well. So this is our website, matrix.one, community.matrix.one for our community. LinkedIn username. Yeah, let me just get my link and share it with you all. Feel free to connect, and I think, let's see, /Samreen. Yeah, okay, got it. So this is my LinkedIn. Let's connect, yeah. And let's see. Also, if you want to email me any questions, I'll give you my email address. Labs.ai. It's samreen.islam@matrixlabs.ai. So feel free to ask any questions. Loved being here. Thank you so much for guiding me and not letting me, just go off into tangents and rabbit holes. But it was fun. It was fun talking.
No, I mean, it was amazing having you. And I think the audience also learned a lot from you today because it's something that's not very common that you get to do a voice thing. I've seen a lot of other AI, but it's very rare to see something with a whole matrix array. I mean, it's very rare. And despite people must have mostly thought that it's only available with Alexa and Google, but there's also a startup like this, which not only has it, but also empowers you to make something of your own. I think that's very unique that people might have discovered today. And I think if there are no more questions, what we will do is we'll end this. And I would also request the community to support IoT IoT. We are also a very small community, and you can also go on our page and support and just like our page if you can, so we are encouraged to bring more and more such innovators across the globe. We all can learn together, get more opportunities. Trust me, AIoT is a decade long opportunity. The pie is going to be 10x bigger than where it is today, and there is just so much for all of us. So it is good for all of us to put in our efforts together, bring them all onto one platform, and we can just share it, right? What do you think, Samrain? We should just share these opportunities, shouldn't we?
For sure, yeah. I mean, the innovation comes when there's teamwork and multiple brains, working together, right? So definitely share as much as possible. Love these communities.
Yeah, I think, and like even we said that, and communities is the way forward, right? I mean, I would like to spend a minute on community. Like, what is your idea on community? Like, did any other community also help you? Like in all of this sharing in your growth story, there might be other communities that have helped you, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, honestly, like our whole platform is built on community. Like all of the devices, like the devices have a lot of capabilities, but nothing will come out of it if a community isn't there to share their ideas, share their work. Our code is open source for a reason. A community contributes to the code as well. Like there have been people who have like fixed bugs for us that we didn't even realize were there, right? So without community, you can't really like figure out what's going on, get new ideas, like and just work together. Because honestly, from community is where you find your co-founders, where you find your things like that. Even when you're starting a company, right?
Right. So there's a lot of, I mean, so that means you really have got a lot of support from your community. And this is why we are at IoT, we also believe that entrepreneurs should not struggle all alone. Join the community, take each other's support. We will all come together because there's just enough to share. We can help each other on code. There's just still a small world yet. I mean, AIoT is going to be a universe in itself in the future, right? So I also dropped our link for our company page. You can just go like it and always ask us for help, in terms of entrepreneur, how can we help AIoT startups? We are very passionate. We're a very small team, and there's a team that is actually working behind this. There is in my team right now, there are a lot of volunteers from Sejal, Ritesh, Kunal, Asid. All of these people are working in the background. They're not on Zoom. There is Hemant, there is Priyank, there is Anshuman. All of these guys are behind the scenes. So it's a lot of community effort that we are trying to put together. So then our organizers from China, Singapore, this is the benefit of being in a community, that you can suddenly scale yourself. You don't have to work all alone. So I think we'll leave with that message. Please keep coming back to the community and let's all grow together, right?
Yes, love it.
Thank you so much. We'll probably close it. There are no more questions. Yeah, I think, yeah, we have got all the contacts, coordinates. Please keep in touch. I really appreciate your time and for coming in. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Anything you want to add,
Yeah,
Mike?
well, really like to say thank you, Sareem, and it's good that people stayed with us for this short time. These kind of events, these sharing events, there are many people across the world that are working alone, and they're working through the internet, and the community aspect and the sharing, the whole experience is just so invaluable. That's how innovation really runs and runs fast. And these kind of communities is where new teams are formed and new products are developed.
Right. And actually, I don't know, Samreen, if you want to join us in that way, because we also invest in a lot of education. So if there is a course material that you want to take to a lot of people, we can help with that. So even otherwise, we educate people in AI and IoT. Most of it is free right now. We don't charge people. That's how much passionate we are, that we give them all the education so people can come in, more and more people can come in. So if you also want to use that, please use it. It's open for everyone in the community. Whoever is hearing me, please collaborate and grow together. We are all for that. Okay. Thank
I love
you.
it. I love your mission. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.